Now before we begin, I'd like to thank one of my channel subscribers for inspiring this video. A couple of weeks ago, Meek left a comment on one of my videos saying that one of the things he struggles with is simply knowing when a photograph is done. And since I've struggled with this myself in the past, and since I suspect most photographers struggle with this too, I thought it was well worth devoting a bit of time to. Whether it's an explicit aim or not, I suspect most photographers would like above everything else to take photographs that are perfect straight out of the camera. If we consider a photograph as having a level of purity, then the 24 karat gold standard is the photograph that needs absolutely nothing doing to it. I process all of my digital photographs in Lightroom, and I have no issue whatsoever in doing so because I shoot RAW, and RAW images are, by design, a photograph in embryo. They are meant to be processed, even if it's simply adding the correct colour profile. However, occasionally I'll take a photograph and everything comes together with the exposure, the aperture, the focus and the composition, and I will not have to do anything whatsoever to that image. I'll import my shots off the SD card, flick through the images and discover that this particular image needs no tweaks at all. This level of photographic purity, of compositional and technical integrity, is something that some photographers consciously pursue. In fact, it's one of the reasons that firstly film and secondly in-camera JPEGs have enjoyed a renaissance in recent years. If you shoot film, darkroom tweaks and paper choices aside, the image is baked into the celluloid, and if you shoot JPEG, you can take Lightroom out of the equation completely and simply move the photos off the SD card and into your portfolio. I'm always pleased when I make one of these perfect shots, but it is not something I consciously aim for. Does that make me a lesser photographer than the folks that are out there with their light meters and calculating hyperfocal distances and hand fluttering the top of the frame to tweak sky exposure values? I don't think so. I'm the sort of photographer who lives very much in the moment, and I prefer to work instinctively and without overthinking things. There's nothing wrong with either approach as far as I'm concerned, each to their own I say. So assuming that you haven't taken a fundamentally perfect image, and you are now processing that image in your photo editor of choice, how do you know when it's done? How do you know when you've tweaked it enough and it looks as good as it's going to get? Well, firstly, the golden rule is to always try the lightest possible processing first. Color profile, lens correction, a light denoise, a light sharpen, and perhaps basic tweaks to black and white points. Then leave that image alone and work on something else for a while. Return to the image in a day or two and see how you feel about it. With the baseline corrections that are required for 90% of raw images and some distance between you and that image, you'll have a better idea of what it needs, if anything. One of my favourite tricks to see if I've taken the processing a little bit too far is to view it at thumbnail size and then toggle all of the Lightroom adjustments on and off. You can get a better impression of the overall impact of any tweaks when you view it this way because it condenses everything into a small frame. The comparison tool in Lightroom and also in most other RAW editors is incredibly useful for weighing the impact of changes that you have made. Once you've flagged the keepers from a particular shoot, consider printing them. You don't have to print them poster size, even a 7x5 is good, and you can fit several of those on a single sheet of A4 photo paper. So print them out and see how they look off a computer screen. Hopefully one of those techniques, giving the photo some time to settle, viewing the thumbnail, using the comparison tool and printing your photo will help you decide if it's finished baking or if you need to put it back in the oven for a bit longer. If there's one main takeaway from all this, it's that above all, back yourself when it comes to processing. If you find yourself questioning a change to an image, such as a boost to the saturation levels, then listen to your instincts and reconsider. When it comes to landscape photography, less is more. And unless you plan on uploading to Instagram, where heavily processed images are the norm, try treading lightly with your adjustments. Remember also that the beauty of raw images are that you can re-edit them. I'm not too proud to admit that I've regularly returned to some of my favourite images and re-edited them. Most of the time those changes involved reducing or completely removing adjustments rather than increasing them. I went through a phase of cropping all of my images to a TV-sized 16:9 ratio. And a couple of years down the line, I went back and restored all of those images to their full dimensions, wondering all the time what the fuck I was thinking when I started doing it. I guess it was just some dumbass phase I was going through at the time. I was reminded of the oft-quoted sentiment expressed by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who said that perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. He was, of course, talking about writing, but I reckon it applies equally to photographic adjustments too. Alright guys, that's it for this one. Do you heavily post-process your photos, or are you a one and done sort of a photographer? Let me know in the comments down below, and please smash that like button down there if you like this video, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thank you to everyone that subscribed lately. I really appreciate the support. Until next time guys, see you later.